everyone, it's Miss Carla. I hope you guys are doing well. This is Classics with Carla, and we are still reading The Wizard of Oz. We are almost done. This is the second to last video. We are going to read chapter 18 and 19 today. I'm trying to think. So where we last left off, we found out that Glinda, the Good Witch of the South, could probably help Dorothy and her crew, specifically Dorothy, because Dorothy still needs to go home. Alright, so let's see what happens next. So chapter 18, The Fighting Trees. The next morning, Dorothy and her friends said goodbye to the guardian of the gate and left the Emerald City. The first day's journey was through the green fields and bright flowers that stretched around the Emerald City on every side. That night, they slept on the grass and looked up at the velvet sky filled with bright stars. In the morning, they traveled until they came to a forest, and the forest was very thick, and there seemed to be no way to go around it. So they looked for the place where it would be easiest to get into the forest. The Scarecrow discovered a big tree with wide, spreading branches that allowed everyone to pass underneath. But just as he came under the first branches, they bent down and twined around him. The next minute, he was lifted from the ground and thrown through the air. This did not hurt the Scarecrow, but it surprised him, and he looked dizzy when Dorothy picked him up. "Here's another space between the trees," called the Lion. "Let me try it first," said the Scarecrow, "for it doesn't hurt me to be thrown around." And he walked up to another tree, but immediately his branches grabbed him and tossed him back again. "This is very strange," said Dorothy. "What shall we do?" "The trees seem to have made up their minds to fight us and stop our journey," said the Lion. "Let me give this a try," said the Tin Man, and he put his axe on his shoulder and walked up to the first tree that had thrown the Scarecrow in the air. When a branch bent down and tried to grab him, the Tin Man chopped it in half. The tree began shaking in pain, and the Tin Man walked safely under it. "Come on," he shouted to the others. "Hurry up!" And they all ran forward and pressed under the tree without being hurt, and the other trees did not try to stop them. So they decided that the only first row of trees could bend down their branches, and that these were the police force of the forest, who tried to keep strangers away. The travelers walked to the edge of the forest. Then, to their surprise, they saw a high wall which seemed to be made of china. It was smooth like the surface of a dish, and much higher than their heads. What will we do now?" said Dorothy. "I will make a ladder so we can climb over the wall," said the Tin Man. Chapter 19, The Dainty China Country. While the Tin Man was making a ladder from wood which he found in the forest, Dorothy lay down and slept. She was very tired from the long walk, and the Lion also curled up to sleep and Toto lay beside him. The Scarecrow watched the Tin Man while he worked and said to him, "I cannot figure out why this wall is here or what it is made of." "Rest your brains and do not worry about the wall," answered the Tin Man. "When we have climbed over it, we will know what is on the other side." After a while, the ladder was finished. It looked clumsy, but the Tin Man was sure it was strong and it would serve the purpose of getting them over the china wall. The Scarecrow woke Dorothy, Toto, and the Lion, and he told them that the ladder was ready. The Scarecrow climbed up the ladder first, but he was so awkward that Dorothy had to follow close behind to keep him from falling off. When he got his head over the top of the wall and could see, he said, "Oh my!" "Go on!" shouted Dorothy. So the Scarecrow climbed further up and sat down at the top of the wall, and Dorothy looked over and cried, "Oh my!" just like the Scarecrow had done. Then Toto came up and immediately began to bark, but Dorothy told him to be quiet. The Lion climbed the ladder next, then the Tin Man, and both of them said, "Oh my!" as soon as they looked over the wall. When they were all sitting in the row on the top of the wall, they looked down and saw a very strange sight. Before them was a great stretch of land. The floor of the land was as smooth and shiny and white as the bottom of a big plate. Scattered around were many houses made entirely of china and painted in bright colors. These houses were very small. The biggest one reached only as high as Dorothy's waist. There were also tiny barns painted red with china fences around them. There were cows, sheep, horses, and pigs, all made of china. But strangest of all were the people who lived in this unusual country. There were milkmaids and shepherdesses who wore red and yellow blouses and skirts with golden spots. There were princesses with beautiful dresses of silver, gold, and purple. The sheep herds were dressed in short pants with pink, yellow, and blue stripes on them. Their shoes had golden buckles. There were princes with crown jewels and robes. There were also clowns in ruffled gowns with red spots on their cheeks and tall, pointed caps. But the strangest thing of all was that all these people were made of china. Even their clothes were made of china, and they were so small that the tallest one was no higher than Dorothy's knee. At first, none of the little people even looked at the travelers. One little purple china dog with an extra large head came to the wall and barked at them. "How can we get down to the other side of this wall?" asked Dorothy. The ladder was so heavy they couldn't pull it up, so the Scarecrow fell off the wall. Then the others jumped down on him so the hard floor would not hurt their feet. They were very careful not to land on his head and get the pins stuck on their feet. When they were all safely down, they picked up the Scarecrow and patted his straw back into shape. "We must cross the strange place in order to get to the other side," said Dorothy, "for we really must continue going south." They began walking through the country of the China people, and the first thing they came to was a China milkmaid milking a China cow. As they came near, the cow gave a kick, and over went the stool, the pail, and even the milkmaid herself. Everything fell on the china ground with a great clatter. Dorothy was shocked to see that the cow had broken its leg off, and the pail was lying in several small pieces. Even the milkmaid had a nick on her left elbow. "See what you have done!" cried the milkmaid angrily. "My cow has broken her leg, and I must take her to the mender shop and have it glued on again. What do you mean, coming here and frightening my cow?" "I am really very sorry," said Dorothy. "Please forgive us." But the milkmaid was too angry to answer. She picked up the leg and led the cow away, and the poor animal limped on 3 legs. Dorothy felt very bad about what had happened. "We must be very careful here," said the kind-hearted Tin Man, "or we may hurt these little people, so they will never get over it." A little further on, Dorothy met a beautifully dressed princess. The princess stopped short when she saw the strangers, and she started to run away. Dorothy wanted to see more of the princess, so she ran after her, but the China girl cried out. She said, "Don't chase me! Don't chase me!" She had such a frightened voice that Dorothy stopped and asked, "Why not?" "Because," answered the princess, "if I run, I may fall down and break myself." "But you could be mended, couldn't you?" asked Dorothy. "Oh, yes, but one is never as pretty after being mended, you know," answered the princess. "I suppose not," said Dorothy. "Now, there is Mr. Joker, one of our clowns," continued the Chinaman, "who is always trying to stand on his head. He has broken himself so many times that he is mended in 100 places and doesn't look at all pretty. Here he comes now, so you can see for yourself." And indeed, a jolly little clown came walking by, and Dorothy could see that in spite of his pretty clothes of red, yellow, and green, he was completely covered with cracks. It was clear that he had been mended in many places. Dorothy felt sad for the poor little clown, and then she turned to the beautiful princess and said, "You are so lovely. I'm sure that I could love you dearly. I'm going back to Kansas. Won't you let me carry you back in my basket so when I get home I can stand you on Aunt Em's mantel shelf?" "That would make me very unhappy," answered the China princess. "You see, here in our own country we live happily and talk and move around as we please. But whenever any of us are taken away, our joints at once stiffen and we can only stand straight and look pretty. Of course, that is all that is expected of us when we are on mantel shelves and cabinets and living room tables. Our lives are much more fun here in our own country." I understand, said Dorothy, "and I would not want to make you unhappy for anything in the world, so I will just say goodbye." "Goodbye," answered the princess, and they walked carefully through the China country. Little animals and people scampered out of their way, afraid they would be broken. Soon they reached the other side of the country and came to another China wall. It was not as high as the first one, and by standing on the lion's back, they all managed to scramble to the top. Then the lion gathered his legs underneath him and jumped the wall. Just as he did this, he upset a china house with his tail and smashed it to pieces. That was too bad, said Dorothy, but I think we're lucky that we did these people so little harm. They were all so delicate. They certainly are, said the Scarecrow, and I am thankful I am made of straw and cannot be hurt so easily. There are worse things in the world than being a scarecrow. They are so afraid of outsiders, said the Tin Man. They must have been treated badly by those who did not understand them. Dorothy nodded her head in agreement as she took her last look at the China wall, and before them lay a gloomy forest. All right, guys, that's about it. So we only have a few more chapters left. It's either 2 or 3 chapters. I honestly forget. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this book. I really liked it when I read it the first time. So yeah, the next book we're going to read is Anne of Green Gables. And that's going to be really exciting because I have never read that. So that's going to be fun, I think. So tune in to, we have this on Monday and Wednesdays at 10 o'clock. It's a recorded video, so it'll be uploaded and you can watch it again and again and again. All right, guys, it was nice reading with you. I'll see you guys later. Bye.